Hi, it's the 7th of October 2018 at 7 p.m. Before I begin, I'm on a train between Butterworth and Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. Okay, so I'll give you something to look at. All right, I've often spoken about this subject. I often say, what's insanity. Even in yesterday's vid, I was talking about the insanity of how a boy was accused of being some sort of sexual offender, and even when it was proven to be a falsehood, that it was all just concocted story. Yeah, that the school authorities didn't try and make amends to the boy in any way. They just forgot him and kept offering their protection to the girls. And to me, I was describing that as insanity. And I was saying that the insanity seems to be spreading. But the problem is that saying that, the world's crazy or it's insane or something like that, it's just such a cliched, hackneyed phrase. And really, you're nodding your head, but you're not really listening. You're not really thinking, oh, maybe the world is going insane. You're not really thinking, that actually could well be a lot of people going insane. And so what I've been trying to say all along is, look, I'm not joking about this. I really think the world is going mad. And when somebody told me about this mouse utopia experiment, I was delighted, really, because it suddenly gave me a framework. It's a framework to actually, based on scientific evidence, proof that given certain circumstances, these mice went insane, went mad. That's actually happened. They observed it, wrote it down. Yeah, they all went crazy. Yeah, so it's real, and it's not like, it's not just saying, all the mice went mad. Everybody goes, yeah, that's just what happens. No, it impacts. You think, okay, they went crazy. And then things went mad. So you pay attention with mice, but when you say humans are mad, yeah, we're all crazy. We've heard that one, haven't we? A million times over. It's been done to death. The world's mad. Yeah, the world's mad. And it doesn't really sink in. But it gives me, this mouse experiment gives me something scientific to set some of the ideas, some of my observations. Look, I don't pretend to be an expert on any of this. I'm just a guy, okay? I'm just a guy who probably comes on YouTube and he's got a thing for food for thought. It gives you a bit of food for thought. He's giving you something to think about, twisting around, giving you something a little, that's probably my only claim to fame. That's what I do. I haven't got 6 degrees in the subject. I'm not pretending to be any sort of expert. In fact, I really don't know what's happening out there because I don't go out there anymore. I talk to you guys. And it keeps me busy enough, and I'm quite happy doing it. But look, anyway, for those of you who aren't familiar with the mouse utopia experiment, I got a comment from OU812, I forgot, in comments either yesterday or the day before, and I thought this thing was, the way he'd written it was so clear and so succinct, I thought I'd share that with you. I asked him, I said, can I use it as a basis of a video? He said, yeah, fine. He said, yeah, it'd be good. And then we can open it up and talk about it more. And he thinks, and he's not the only one. There's quite a few guys that are quite interested in it. I know I am. It's just got something. But the video that I watched, Down the Mouse Hole, I don't know whether that's the only one, but I found that rather confusing. It didn't explain it as clearly and succinctly as OU812 I forgot did yesterday. I'll read it to you. I'll read what he actually wrote. He said, Dr. Calhoun, he created a mouse utopia in which the mice had everything they needed and lived in a perfect environment. And he was going to observe their behaviours. It lasted for a couple of years. It sounded good at first, but the whole mouse colony eventually went mentally retarded. At first, the females would only mate with the alpha males, but eventually all the males turned feminine and became sexually uninterested in the females. The females eventually lost interest in taking care of the baby mice, and there was no more alphas left. The population started to decline until it died off completely. There were very concerning similarities to our society today: aggressive females and taking over the masculine roles, the disappearance of masculine role models, sexual exclusion, and the rise of single parenthood. Now, I don't know, I think that just about did it. I think that so really what he was saying is, even to summarise that, yeah, the guy set up this perfect environment, thought it was going to be great, didn't work out that way at all. The mice went mad and lost interest in one another, and the whole thing died. And it's actually from, as I remember, I think there was some pretty savage fighting involved. I mean, that summary doesn't really give you an idea of the hell that it became. But yeah, there was a lot of fighting involved, and rats having their ears torn off and hearts torn out and all that sort of thing. Yeah, a lot of that sort of thing happened. Okay, so I mean, there's probably there's a lot in that to be unpacked, in all honesty. But I broke it down into 4 broad areas that I thought of first up. The first one is going to strike you as a bit odd, okay, and probably you wouldn't have picked it. But I've done this for a reason. And the point number 1 I've got, out of that was the idea that it sounded good at first, but it didn't work out as planned. Now probably that's one of those. Oh yeah, sounded great. Yeah, it didn't work out as planned. Yeah, that happens all the time, and which it does. Which is also telling you that could also be part of the problem. That things sound great, ideas sound great, but they don't work out. And in this case, Dr. Cullinan just let it go. He didn't change it, didn't modify, didn't think, what can I do to I don't know whether he or others have done other experiments since to determine, what could happen. And they probably have, and we're probably the mice in the mouse cage, or in the mouse colony. Truth be known, it does feel a bit like an experiment. But that was the first thing that stuck to me, and I was significant because I'd only realised a couple of days ago that that's often the big problem in my life. I'll come up with an idea that sounds great, doesn't work out as I'd planned. If I've got a woman, if I'm living with a woman or doing it with a woman, oh my God, that's a week-long argument. Okay, if I don't have a woman, I think, okay, didn't work out, I'd change it. And I'd keep going. I don't go to pieces. I don't go insane. Okay, so that's what I mean. That's why it was important to me. I retained my sanity. Yep, okay, that didn't work out. Yep, fine. Yeah, it's disappointing, but I won't waste any time thinking about that. I'm certainly not going to tear myself to pieces. I'll just move on to the next step. If you're doing it with somebody else, typically it takes at least a week to start finding your way, back to normality again, because you go insane. I know. I spent 30 years doing it repeatedly, up and down like that the whole time. Anyway, I'll talk about all of these points in other videos. Okay, so at this stage I'm just summarising what my takeaway from what OU812 I forgot wrote in his comment. And as I said, there's a lot to unpack, a lot to dissect. The second point that struck me was the whole. He says the whole mouse colony went mentally retarded. Now I don't know, whether you guys what sort of depth of knowledge you have of it, but that sort of that several questions came because I'm sort of thinking of mgtow and how we're responding to things. I think, was it the whole colony, or was it like most of them, with the mgtow sort of being the ones that flew over the cuckoo's nest perhaps. I also thought, what exactly do you mean by mentally retarded? Now I realise they're mice. It's not like you can get a mouse and lie it down on the couch and say, well, just having such a bad day today. This happened. This happened. This. No, I mean clearly I don't know whether they can tell what sort of insanity an animal suffers, but I mean there are clearly many different types of reasons a person and probably an animal would also become insane. So that struck me as interesting too. Just what was the insanity and what was the nature of the insanity? What was, and very hard to to work out with mice. It does make you wonder whether we're being studied, doesn't it? Whether there's a whole group of psychology students, watching these videos. Well, these guys seem to be doing this, they're behaving. Yeah, probably. Anyway, the third point was the mice had everything they needed and lived in a perfect environment. That really brought up some sub-issues for me. My first thought was, what would have happened had that perfect environment been, whether he just suddenly took away everything they needed? What would have behaved? So many variables that he could have done. I got the impression that he maintained the perfect environment and just watched what happened as the mice experienced this perfect environment. But I mean, let's be fair. It doesn't happen in reality. Sooner or later, the our economy will crash and burn, and we'll have a cleansing. It had crashed and burned in 2008, but as we all know, it was artificially propped up a little bit. You could probably argue, it's the quantitative easing and not allowing the system to flush itself out properly. Is sort of giving us everything we need to keep living, or for the most part, largely. Not everybody's in that boat, of course, but largely kept it going. And maybe in doing that, they're creating the very environment that Dr. Calhoun created himself, and brought about the insanity. So it's possible that this is all being brought about by central bank intervention. And I think I've had people say that, but unless, I guess what the mouse experiment does is it gives us something to a benchmark. You can say, look, this is what the central bank did this, and this, which would link with this. Or you might be able to say, here's another experiment where they did this and found that, which I think would probably be more interesting in all honesty. And sort of like, because I've noticed a lot of comments are made and what have you. You probably have strong reasons for believing them, believe them strongly, but unless you can actually say, look, here's the situation. This is what happened in this one, and this is what happened there. It's pretty easy just to forget it, just to brush it off, and which is a pity because you've probably got a good idea. And look, if any of you have got anything like that and you want me to discuss it, then lay it out and I'll research it. I mean, I'll look into what you say, and and your comment. I'll look into that, and I'll give you the shout out, and we can look at it. But I think because a lot of you have got ideas, and and it's based on something, but it's like making a statement. For example, the central bank's done all this. It's because it's a bit hard to sort of prove, isn't it? It's sort of one of these accusations with no proof. I guess is what I'm driving at. I really had them up to here. Here's my accusation, no evidence given. This is probably where I'm getting to at the moment. I've just had it. It's insanity. So I guess this is the whole thing about the mouse experiment. It's a scientific experiment. It's not exactly the same as what happened, but at least I can point to it and say, here's evidence of what happened in the mouse colony. It seems to be happening with us as people as well. It's evidence. I guess that's really what I'm driving at. Even if the evidence is spurious and what have you, it's something, isn't it? Something close. But anyway, a fourth point that I brought out was the gradual loss of interest between the sexes. And that rang bells for me because I thought, mgtow basically have no interest. But it's funny because I was in the wild jungle and sexy camps again last night, and two women were talking, and they were saying, just men are just interested in sex or something like that. And one of the women said, "Oh yeah, it's always the same, isn't it?" And I looked at it and I thought, "Oh honey, you're making assumptions that probably haven't held true for 5 years." Just the same idea that all men want is sex, and yet the 2 or 3 or 4 guys in the room there, that's probably what they want. I go in to talk to friends. No, I talk. There's no, we might joke about sex, but nothing ever happens. We're not interested. I'm not interested. They know that. And I mean, it's just, but it just, I looked at these women and I just thought, you're in a mouse colony that no longer exists. Yeah, that was at the beginning, of the mouse colony. But we're well and truly into. We're now, basically becoming sexually uninterested in females, and the females in the room at least are finding. Had an attractive woman in there the other day. It was put on a sort of a show with, and I was sitting there thinking, oh shit, this is boring. It was just boring. I'd rather try and figure out whether I'll go to Malaysia or Vietnam than sit here and watch this. And, I mean, it was just, and you could sort of tell she could sense that, yeah, we just weren't interested. The guys were probably more interested in cracking jokes with one another. Yeah. But we didn't have a lot of interest in her, unfortunately. It's just, it's that. It's this loss of interest. But this it sort of brought me to, thinking about this whole thing about where mgtow fit in. And as it works out, Trevor West, another commenter, put up a comment, which I'll also read to you, that sort of explains a bit more about what happened in the experiment. He says the somnambulistic mice stuck in the behavioural sink are like mgtow, looking at the behaviour around them and thinking, not for me. He says Calhoun wasn't that interested in them as they didn't interfere with other mice or were interfered with by other mice. They were healthy but a little sullen. My guess, this is what he said, is my guess is they would have been the first to leave Utopia given the chance. Now, even in that comment, I can unpack that in a few areas. I won't do them all in this video, but the behavioural sink, by the way, is a term coined by this Dr. Calhoun to describe the collapsing society due to overpopulation, he says. Why they were called somnambulistic, I have no idea. If anybody knows the significance of that, the only thing I could see that it meant was that it was something to do with sleepwalking. That it was a motor action that, so it could be that, I don't know. I wouldn't even guess. Yeah, one of you guys might have a better idea, and I'd like to know. But that's the whole thing. It was, we're caught up in this collapsing society. We've looked around, thought, no, we don't want this. And how many times have I even said, no, who wants it? No, I don't want it. It just, not for me, not for... And this is basically what you're all saying. No, I just don't want it. I wouldn't say that the world isn't interested in us. In fact, I get the feeling that we piss them off like you got nobody's business. It's not like we're just sort of forgotten about it. Having a mgtow channel is... I probably got banned from PayPal because of it. That's I can't think why else I would have been. But it seems that we're upsetting people. And even for you guys say, don't let anybody at work know that you're mgtow. So I wouldn't say that we didn't. I guess we're not attacked. I think that's probably what Trevor was driving at. We're not, for those that were in the main part of the body of the rat colony, they were attacked, and really savagely, and to the point of being killed, which I can see happening in our life as well. I can see the days are coming quickly where somebody will make a false accusation of somebody, and they'll just kill them or attack them in some way, hit them or kick them or whatever. Yeah, they've had enough. It's a horrible thing to do. It just wouldn't surprise me if that happens. You know, because once thing with narcissism, if it is indeed narcissism, and I believe it is, yeah, it doesn't. You can't fix it. It just gets worse and worse and worse. So us mgtow is, it's sort of like we've found a way to escape. We've done that via the internet. We don't actually need we can socialise on and get the feeling that yep, we're virtually socialising online. So that was interesting. Trevor's comment. Both comments were fantastic in all honesty, and I'd like to do more based on that. As I said earlier, based on something. And I think this is sort of instead of just accusing or making statements based on nothing. If we can possibly start basing it on some sort of this was proven scientifically with that or this. Just for a little bit of a sanity break, because I can't stand this false accusation anymore. But anyway, good talking to you, and tomorrow off to see you again. Okay, talk to you later. Bye.